After years of searching at every retro gaming shop and every retro gaming convention to no avail, when I had pretty much given up on the idea of ever owning this thing, I finally got my hands on a PSP N340, a device better known as the PSPgo Dock. With it, you can charge your PSPgo and, more importantly, connect your PSPgo to your TV so you can play PSP games and emulators on the big screen. Now the question becomes, is it worth it? Though often celebrated for popularizing the concept of the hybrid handheld/home console, the Switch isn't actually the first time this idea was offered to gaming enthusiasts. That merit goes to, well, Sega. Released in October of 1995, the Sega Nomad, and yes, I know I talk about the Sega Nomad here a bunch, but that's because I know the internet. The second I praise Nintendo for the innovation the Switch represents, smartasses are going to jump down my throat letting me know that I'm an idiot for thinking Nintendo came up with the idea first. I gotta cover my bases. Anyway, back in 1995, Sega introduced the Sega Nomad, which was essentially a portable version of the Sega Genesis that played standard Sega Genesis games. The perk here being, obviously, that it allowed you to play Sonic 2 or Comic Zone while on the go, or on the toilet? Okay, just a second. What is it with playing games on the toilet? When the Switch came out, people were so excited that they would be able to play Breath of the Wild on the toilet, and two things. One, I can't be the only one that thinks that's super gross, and two, how long are you there for? You should probably get that checked out. As I was saying, while the Nomad sounds great in theory, at least for someone who loves all things portable, the handheld came out during a time when Sega was trying way too many things at once. Between the Sega CD, the 32X, and the Saturn, which all came out in quick succession around the same time period, people just weren't willing to give Sega money when they didn't seem to know what exactly they wanted to do. That's pretty easy to understand. So, almost a decade and a half later, Sony put out the next best thing, the PSPgo. Man, the white one really doesn't show up good on camera. Okay, let's try that again. The PSPgo. Yeah, that's a little better. Released in 2009 as the third redesign of the PSP, the PSPgo fixed a lot of issues with the original model, like adding built-in storage and Bluetooth support. But the lack of the UMD drive made it a hard sell for people who already owned an extensive UMD game library. And here's the thing. Sony initially announced the plan to offer a type of voucher solution so that people who already own physical games could then redeem a downloadable copy of those games. Sounds great in theory, right? Upgrade to the PSPgo, download digital copies of the games you already own, then sell the older model with all the physical games you don't need anymore. In practice, unfortunately, as it tends to be the case with these things, it didn't work out as they originally intended. And that's because Sony never rolled out the voucher system I just described. In its place, there was a program called PSP Rewards, and it was only valid for 17 titles. By registering your previous PSP model with the program, you could then pick 3 out of those 17 games, and that was it. Now, don't get me wrong, those 17 games made up a great cross-section of the PSP library, with games like Wipeout Pure, Patapon, or Killzone Liberation, to name a few. And you didn't have to already own any of those titles, but you gotta pick 3 of them. A real Sophie's Choice situation. Oh, and PSPgo Rewards only ran for 5 months. And it was exclusive to Europe. One of the few times European gamers got a better deal than North Americans. Combine that with a price tag of $250, so $80 more than a regular old PSP, and it's easy to see why the PSPgo didn't exactly break record numbers. One of the accessories Sony released for the PSPgo was the dock, or cradle. That's what the device actually says here on the back. I'm just gonna call it dock because cradle sounds kind of weird to me. The dock could be used to charge the device, to connect it to your computer, or to display the games on your TV via component cable. Oddly, out of the box, it doesn't do any of those things. The dock doesn't come with a USB cord or a charger or a component cable. For the charger, you can use the one you got with your PSPgo or an older PSP 2000 charger. The component cable is sold separately, and it's something most PSPgo owners likely didn't have. So it's a weird decision to not just bundle it with the dock to begin with. Basically, this is how it goes. If you want to connect it to your computer, you plug the proprietary PSPgo charging cable to the dock and then to your PC. By enabling the USB connection option in the PSP settings, you can then browse the contents of your PSP on your computer. Interestingly, that won't charge your PSPgo, and yes, the USB charge option under system settings is turned on when I tried this. It still doesn't charge. However, if you unplug the cable from the dock and then just plug it right into the PSPgo, that will charge it, go figure. To be fair, I can't rule out the possibility that there's something wrong with my dock. This thing is pretty rare, so it's hard to find reports of similar issues. That being said, it was a sealed unit, so I don't know. And that's not the only peculiar thing about the PSPgo dock experience. The whole idea behind this is to be able to play your PSP games on the TV, right, with a controller, and to be able to take the PSPgo out of the dock and keep playing wherever you go, with the beneficial byproduct of your console always being fully charged when you leave the house, just like with the Switch. And I always imagined this experience would be a very close analog to what you can do on the Nintendo Switch, and it's certainly close to that, but the actual process leaves a lot to be desired. First, connecting a controller to the PSPgo is not a straightforward process at all. You need to unearth that old dusty PS3 you got lying around somewhere. Then you got to wire both the handheld and a DualShock controller to the USB ports on your PS3. Then head over to Manage Bluetooth Devices, select Register New Device, then register a PS3 system controller and follow the on-screen prompts from there. It's not rocket science, sure, but you need a bunch of wires and another console to do it. It's just really ass backwards when you think about it. In fairness, there are third-party apps that allow you to do all of that using your computer, but I'm not a fan of installing random unofficial stuff on a computer that I use for important things. So I decided to skip that. Performing some necromancy on my PS3 seemed like a safer option. Once the controller is paired to the PSPgo, you just gotta connect the component cable to the dock, plug the PSPgo, then head over to Connect Display Settings, and then hit Switch Video Output. Switch, huh? Only then will the PSPgo actually output its video to the TV. To be perfectly honest, it's super inconvenient, and it really made me appreciate the fact that the Switch does that automatically when you plug it into the dock. You don't have to do anything, just plug it and it's there on the TV. And it's the same for taking it out. You have to turn that option off first, then take the PSP out of the dock. If you forget to do that, the PSP will be stuck in TV out mode and will require a quick reboot. It's not the end of the world, but you see what I'm saying, right? Oh, and by the way, the component cable obviously won't charge the PSPgo while you play on the TV, and there's only one PSPgo proprietary input on the dock, so you kind of need that regular PSP charger to be able to play on the TV and charge at the same time. Making it so the regular PSP charger, or at least a USB to PSP charging cable like this one here, is pretty much mandatory for this whole setup. And speaking of mandatory, no, the dock isn't really necessary for this setup to work, really. The component cable you're going to need to make the dock work can just be plugged right into the PSPgo. Of course, that way you won't be able to charge it at the same time, so there's that. Now for the actual gameplay experience. It's not bad. Of course, you're working with a resolution of 480 by 272, and you're playing games that were meant to be played on a 3.8-inch screen, but it's still pretty awesome. Do keep in mind that without an upscaler, games will run as a small rectangle right in the middle of your TV, so something else to consider. But if you can get past all of that, it's still pretty neat to be able to play PSP and homebrew games on your TV with a wireless controller sitting on the couch, all while your PSPgo charges. It's not as polished an experience as the Switch for obvious reasons, but I'm still pretty happy I got the dock. And yes, by the way, that is Warcraft 2 running on a PSP. In case you're wondering through what kind of witchcraft that is even possible, click the card at the top. I hope I'm pointing at the right direction. Of course, I gotta give a big shout out to Gabriel de Pinho, a Brazilian sub who spotted the sealed PSPgo dock at a vintage gaming shop for the ridiculous price of $13. For those not in the know, it's hard enough to even find this thing in auction sites, and even when you do, sealed units like the one he got me go for hundreds of dollars. Gabriel bought this and shipped it to me while I was on vacation in Brazil last month, so thank you so much, dude. So this is the PSPgo Dock. It has a bunch of shortcomings, yeah, especially compared to how similar tech works nowadays, but yeah, it turns your PSPgo into a predecessor of the Switch, in a way. Truth be told, the biggest benefit for me is just using the dock as a charger. I find putting stuff on docks way more convenient than using regular chargers, and as a result, ever since getting this thing, my PSPgo is always fully charged when I leave the house, and that is awesome. If you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you already knew a lot about the production of this video, so follow me there if you don't already. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, by the way, because YouTube sucks at letting you know I put new videos out, so if you don't want to miss stuff here on the channel, notification bell, that's what it's for. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a long time coming, I know, but I wanted to get all the details right. And that's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy, and I'm done.